Today's lesson, I just wanted to show you, is on THINKCERCA. Today we are going to continue with practicing on organizing your arguments. So if you go to THINKCERCA and log in the way I've showed you, you're going to click on the assignment entitled Organizing Arguments. You'll see that it starts April 20th and it goes till the 24th. Alright, let's go ahead and just preview this assignment so that way you know. As we do this assignment, I would like you to go ahead and open up the guided notes that I've created for you. These are going to help you for the quiz that happens at the end of this lesson. Fill in these guided notes, and as we go through it, I'll demonstrate how to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So, for the first part, as you guys know, or should know by now, the parts that make up THINKCERCA are the following: claim, evidence, reasoning, counter-argument, and thinking about the audience. Even though the audience is not a part that you explicitly say, the idea is that you're keeping in mind who you're talking to and making sure that the language is appropriate for whoever your audience might be. So, just to give you an example, the different parts of THINKCERCA. Now what I'm going to do is fill out my name, my period, that you had me, and then the different parts of THINKCERCA are claim, evidence, reason, counterclaim, and then I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, reasoning, and audience. I have designed the guided notes to be exactly what you see on your screen when you're doing the lesson. So as long as you're following along, you should be able to fill in whatever is missing. If you get confused about what you're supposed to fill in, feel free to email me, or you can come visit me during office hours Wednesday through Friday. At the bottom, it asks you, what is an argument? So you'll write down, an argument uses reasons, facts, or evidence to convince others to agree with a particular point of view. Make sure to also fill in for this part the different letters and what they stand for. Writing an argument is like making a map. So I'll see in my guided notes, I'm supposed to come up with the 3 parts of an essay. The 3 parts, as you guys know, should be the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. The next part asks you, what is an introduction? I'm going to take a moment, pause here for a second, and let you think about that. What do you think should be an introduction? 30 seconds. All right. So what did you write for what an introduction should be? In this lesson, as the metaphor we're using is that we're making a map, the introduction that gives the argument clear direction. How close was your answer to what the lesson said? Make sure that you correct anything that might be incorrect, and let's move on to the body. If we know that the introduction is our compass, giving our argument a clear direction, what do you think the body is? Take 30 seconds, think of what you might say, and then write it down into the guided notes. All right, looking at your answer, the lesson itself says the body paragraphs are the root that have a specific purpose of guiding the argument with reasons and evidence. The root that gives a specific purpose guiding argument, reasons, and evidence. How close was your answer to the answer that the lesson gave? And finally, what is a conclusion? Take 30 seconds, think of what you think the conclusion's purpose is, and write it down. All right. Now it's time to compare your answer for the conclusion is with what the lesson says. In the lesson, they call the conclusion the final destination. The reason they call it the final destination is it restates the claim and main points of the argument you've been working towards. So the conclusion is the final destination. That restates the claim and main points of the argument you've been working towards. Very good. Let's keep on going on. We talked about this last week, but as a reminder, what are the three things that go into your introduction? The three things that go into your introduction are to summarize the ongoing argument of the issue. This is not to say that you're going to say everything that the body is going to take, but it's telling us what the argument is all about. Now, that might be saying that, for instance, there's controversy over whether or not global warming exists. And if you decide that your claim is going to be that global warming does or does not exist, then you would want the audience to know that there's an argument about that to begin with. The second thing that needs to be in your introduction is your claim, whether you agree or disagree, or both. Now, I know THINKCERCA is telling you to do both, but we are trying to make sure that you can choose a side, either agree or disagree, because that's going to be a stronger argument than if you were being wishy-washy and saying, well, I kind of agree and disagree. So, please make sure that you present your claim in your introduction. The final thing that you need to introduce is your reasons why. You're just giving a preview for what the body paragraph is going to look at. What are the reasons that you've come up with for why you think your claim is right? Things an introduction should do: summarize the ongoing argument on the issue. Again, this isn't summarizing your reasons. You're talking about what is the argument people are having. What's the question that you're trying to answer? The second thing it needs to do is present your claim. And then the third thing it should do is explain your reasons why. This is just a little preview, not going into too much detail, because that's what the body paragraphs are for. Also, the body paragraphs are landmarks on your roadmap to the argument. So what do you need in your body paragraph? Again, with a 5-paragraph essay, I just want to slow down on this. You should have an introduction, paragraph 1. Then your next 3 paragraphs should be the body paragraphs. And then your final paragraph for the 5-paragraph essay should be the conclusion. So what do you need in your paragraph? Well, first, you need the claim again. You're telling me what exactly you are saying, what is your argument, right? Then you're going to go ahead and go into your reason. What is the reason that's going to be the heart of this body paragraph? What is your evidence to support that reason? What is your reasoning? Again, the reasoning is the bridge that tells me how your evidence is supporting your reason. And then finally, you're going to tell me what the other side would say against that reason and why they're wrong. Think about your claim, evidence, and reasoning, and the audience. Then choose an organization or combination that's best. So here are some examples of different organizational strategies, how you can organize your essay. These are just different tools. You can decide which one fits best for you. So the first one is called weakest to strongest. In weakest to strongest, the strength of support, starting with the weakest point and building to the strongest reason. So think of it this way. If you have 3 body paragraphs, body paragraph 1 is going to focus on your weakest reason, why you think you're right, and then it is going to end with body paragraph 3 being your strongest reason. That is all this is doing. Next one is sequence. A sequence essay basically is a time or chain of causes and effects. An example of this could be, for instance, if you're arguing about something like what were the causes of World War II, you might have body paragraph 1 give something earlier in history and going to something more recent in history ending. So you're giving, here's how it started, here's what happened next, and then finally this led to blank, right? So that's what a different way to organize your essay could be. The third is point and counterpoint. This is one that you're already doing automatically when you're following CERCA, because this is basically just saying that for each argument that you're proposing, you're giving the counter argument. So in your body paragraphs, you're already doing that. So technically that organizational strategy is automatically being done. And then finally, pros and cons. So basically what this is saying is you're listing all the reasons for one side of the issue and then all the reasons for the other side. So this could be for example, you could do, say for body paragraph 1, you're giving all the pros, and then body paragraph 2, you're listing all the cons against your argument, and then maybe in body paragraph 3, you're going back over the cons and talking about why they're wrong. So that could be an example of that organizational strategy. Any one of these would be acceptable for when you're writing an essay. Keep these in mind for the quiz. You can totally use these guided notes again to help you on the quiz. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to read the following paragraph and highlight in the appropriate color the claim, the reason, the counterpoint, the evidence, and the reasoning. So let me just first read the whole paragraph and then we'll go over. And I'm going to give you about, let's say, 2 minutes to go ahead and guess or highlight what you think each of the parts are. So let's go ahead and do that now. Wild animals belong in their natural habitats so they can roam and develop their natural movements and behaviors. I agree that many zoos no longer have cages with steel bars and cold cement. However, too many zoos provide the smallest cages and shelters allowed, and these are too restricting. For example, cheetahs are the fastest animals on land, but they cannot exercise that speed in a small space provided in a zoo. Wild tigers defend for themselves on the plains, but tigers cannot roam or hunt in the restricted space of a zoo. If animals do not exercise the skills they are born with, then they lose those skills. All right. I'm going to give you about 1 more minute after the minute that I just used to read this paragraph to just go ahead and highlight what you think each of the parts are, because all the parts are present, you just need to highlight them. Go ahead and do that now. Right. Now, as we go through this, just double check with your answers if you were correct, or if you got any wrong, just go ahead and fix those as well. So the claim, of course, starts right at the beginning, right? With wild animals belong in their natural habitats. How do we know this is the claim? Because it's the argument that the rest of the paragraph is trying to support. So I'm going to highlight that in red. Wild animals belong in their natural habitats. Go ahead and highlight it just like I did now. The first reason they give is that the reason they need these habitats is so they can roam and develop their natural movements and behaviors. So basically the idea that they need that freedom to be themselves. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go ahead and go over here to the buckets and I'm going to pick orange. All right. Hopefully so far you're seeing that you're pretty close with what you've been highlighting. If not, just make sure to keep in mind what you've gotten wrong and how you can fix it. The next part you'll see is the counterpoint is acknowledged by this author. So they're telling us why people might disagree with their claim. So they say, I agree that many zoos no longer have cages with steel bars and cold cement. So this is just saying that, like, some people might argue that zoos are fine because they're no longer as bad as they used to be, right? So I'm going to highlight that. Then I'm going to highlight this in green because that's the counterpoint. And now they have the evidence. However, too many zoos provide the smallest cages and shelters allowed, and these are too restricting. For example, cheetahs are the fastest animals on land, but they cannot exercise that speed in the small space provided in a zoo. Wild tigers fend for themselves on the plains, but tigers cannot roam or hunt in a restricted space of a zoo. So this is them providing specific information that they found in their research for why they are right. So they're trying to support their reason, being that they need natural habitats. So I'm gonna, notice that there's no highlighting orange, or in this part. Remember, you're gonna use the bucket for orange, but this is yellow, so I'm just gonna click on yellow. All right. And then the last thing is the reasoning. Think of reasoning again, the way reasoning is different than reason. Reason is why your claim is right. Reasoning is how your evidence supports your reason. So reason, why, reasoning, how. So in this case, they say if animals do not exercise their skills they are born with, they will lose those skills. So I'm going to highlight that. There's no orange here, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the paint bucket and click orange. And that's it. Please make sure if you need to pause this video and copy exactly as I have here, go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. The next thing we're asking are, what are 3 things you need in your conclusion? I'm going to give you 30 seconds right now. Go ahead and answer. Looking at your answers for what are 3 things you need in your conclusion, let's move on in the lesson and see how close you got. So the first thing that you need in your conclusion is to restate your claim. Again, you're making sure that the audience remembers what are you arguing and what have you been arguing throughout the whole essay. The next thing that you should have is you should summarize how did you support or prove your claim. And then finally, you should encourage the readers to agree or take action. And what we mean by take action is, for instance, if you're trying to persuade them to recycle or to participate in voting, whatever might actually be something, an argument that is something that people could do, that you're encouraging them at the end of your essay to do that thing. All right, look at your answers, see how close you got. Hopefully if you see a misconception, you know what you got wrong and how you can fix it. If you're still having trouble, again, feel free to come in office hours and I'm happy to talk to you about what exactly might be a misconception you have. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the organization checklist. This is something that can be extremely important as you're writing your essays to review, just to make sure that you have what you need. So, there are 3 questions that you need in your organization checklist. The first is the paragraph order logical. Now what we mean by that is, does the paragraph and the way you've organized your argument, starting with body paragraph 1, ending in body paragraph 3, does that make sense? If you are just throwing what you've found on the internet and onto a paper and it isn't really organized, then that's just going to hurt your grade, right? And that shows that maybe you don't know or understand the argument that you're trying to argue. So you need to make sure that you have a logical order for your paragraphs. The next one, do sentences flow from one idea to another? Do these sentences, excuse me. And what this is basically saying is, like, do you make sure that when you're transitioning from one reason to another, or when you're transitioning from your reasoning to reason to your evidence, that you have inserted transitions to make sure that it flows, that an audience knows where you're taking them, right? If we're thinking about this like the metaphor that we were talking about at the beginning, like it's a map, right? We're making a map. We wouldn't make a map without directions. We wouldn't make a map without kind of landmarks to help people to see, oh, that's where they're gonna go next. I see. So you gotta make sure to have those transitions. So, the final part is, what are transitions? Transitions are words, phrases, and clauses that show how ideas are related. Now you'll notice that the next thing you'll see in your guided notes is a table talking about different transitions. This is going to be an extremely helpful table that you can go back and look at. So let's go through it together. So the first one is, say you're trying to add ideas. So you've already given an idea, but you want to continue to add on to that idea. So an example of that could be, if I'm arguing in my essay the importance of staying healthy, and we say one way to stay healthy is to exercise. Also, another way to stay healthy is to eat healthy, making sure to have fruits and vegetables. So the use of the word also is a transition when you're adding an idea. Here are some other transitions that you can use. Go ahead and copy those down. The next one is to admit a point. So this is basically if you were trying to acknowledge what the other side might say, you're going to transition with that by saying, although true, granted, of course, since this is so, right? And that's just a good transition for if you're providing a counterclaim. So an example that could be transitions for my argument on the importance of studying. So I might say, you know, my argument is that you should study and build good study habits so that way you're successful in school. Although true that there are some students that are able to memorize things really quickly or do really well on tests. That's the relationship to admitting a point. However, that would be the next transition. However, there isn't a guarantee that every test they come across will be as easy as the tests that they are mastering at that time. So it's important to develop those habits so that way they are prepared for any test. Choice, either, or, neither, nor, or, otherwise. Compare at the same time, in the same way, likewise, similarly. So choice is basically if you're talking about pros and cons or you're giving different options for solutions. Compare is when you're talking about things that are similar. Contrast is the next one. Contrast is the opposite when you're looking at things, two things or more things that are different. So but, however, instead, on the contrary, and yes. Illustrate, it just means to like paint a picture with words. So you're giving examples is an example of illustration. For example, in other words, putting it in different words so people can understand it better. Specifically, giving examples, and that is importance, when you're trying to underline the importance of an idea or point. Above all, mainly, more important, most of all, surely, and then finally, when you're summarizing, well actually not finally, second to finally, when you're summarizing all in all, for these reasons, in conclusion, and in short. So when you're summarizing ideas, and then finally for theme, which is the message, after, finally, first, later, next, since, then, and when. If at any point I get too fast, feel free to pause this video, catch up with the notes, and then just click resume when you're ready to go. All right. So for the next one, you're going to look at the transitions that are used in the next paragraph. What I would suggest is, as I'm reading this paragraph, go ahead and write down as many transition words that you can see based on the graph that we've just shown you. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, so the first minute will be me reading the paragraph, and the second minute will just give you a little extra time to continue to write down any transitions you see. Go ahead and try your best. I believe in you. Here's the paragraph. Okay. So, for example, the very first one is a transition, granted. you go ahead and write that down. Continue to write down any other transition words you might see. Granted, many zoos create habitats that imitate an animal's natural habitat, but no man-made environment is as good as a natural habitat. Concrete and man-made materials harm the animal's joints and feet. Also, these materials prevent animals from foraging for food, a daily physical activity for animals in the wild. Man-made habitats often have bland features and little vegetation to stimulate the animals. Then, the animals become bored and stressed. Next, these animals lose their hair or feathers or repeat behaviors such as pacing back and forth or walking in circles. Severe cases, the animals die. I'm going to give you one more minute. Scholars, go back over this paragraph, look for any words or phrases that are transition words, and I want you to copy them down into your guided notes. You still have 30 seconds. Alright, look over your list of transitions that you found. Count up how many transitions did you find. Put that number, whatever it might be, after the last transition that you wrote. Now let's see how close you got. So we have granted, but, also, then and next, choice, so or, and that's all of them. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many did you get? Were you close to the 6 that they found? If not, just continue to look at paragraphs as you're reading or things you find online, and just make sure you're keeping in mind what transitions are these authors using to help to transition their ideas. Because again, the stronger your transitions, the stronger your argument. Please make sure to fix your transitions to include the ones that they had. Now let's do the review. This is going to be one of the last things we do before we move into the quiz. As a reminder, the introduction is the compass that gives the argument clear direction. The body paragraphs are the roots that have a specific purpose of guiding the argument with reasons and evidence. And finally, the conclusion is the final destination. That restates the claim and main points of the argument you've been working towards. The reason that we are focusing on the body paragraph and how to organize it is that although many of you were able to give me a reason to support your claim, some of you forgot the other parts that are supposed to be in it as well. For instance, some of you included a reason, but no evidence. Some people concluded evidence, but didn't cite their evidence, right? Citing again, telling me in parentheses where they got their evidence and who wrote that quote. Some people had the reason and the evidence, but didn't explain how the evidence supported the reasoning. And finally, some people forgot to include a counterclaim. What is the other side's argument for why you're wrong? remember that all of those parts are needed to make sure that you get all the points for a strong bodied paragraph. Now the last thing I'd like you to do, and you can complete this after you finished with this lecture that you just did the notes on, so if you're ready you can do it right now. I want you to use the guided notes, which are right here that we've been filling in, and I want you to take the quiz entitled How to Organize Your Argument. To take the quiz, you'll just see that there's a button that says Start Quiz. When you click that button, you'll go ahead and see that the very first question they ask you is, what is the purpose of the introduction? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use your resources. You're going to just scroll back up, right? The first thing I'm going to do is I look at all my possible answers and I just try to see what sticks out. So what is the purpose of an introduction? A, to restate your argument's main points. B, to state the claim that you're attempting to prove. C, to provide evidence and reasoning as to why your claim is logical. Or D, to give statistics and other detailed information about your argument. So right off the bat, looking at this, I know it can't be C or D because those are things that you should do in the body paragraph. So it has to either be A or B. Now, A, to restate your argument's main points. Well, if this is the introduction, which is the first paragraph of my essay, it doesn't make sense for me to restate anything because I haven't even stated it to begin with. So, looking at B, to state the claim that you are attempting to prove. Okay. Gives the argument clear direction. Uses reasons and facts or evidence to convince others to agree to a point of view. So, looking through my notes, I'm going to see if there's anything else that helps me to understand an introduction. I'm going to click on this one, and that's the right answer. Go ahead and go through and answer the rest of these questions, and then once you're done, go ahead and press this button at the bottom, which will become you'll be able to click it once all the questions are answered and submit that. Good luck, and I hope to see you in office hours. Goodbye, scholars.